Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. A little bit of technical difficulties today on this little Twitch live stream, a secret Twitch live stream, because, well, you know what? That's what we want to do on a weekend, especially when price action is kind of slow and boring. So this will be posted this will be uploaded to YouTube a little bit later. But for those who want to, for those who want to hang out right now, we're live on Krown Crypto channel on Twitch, and also I think on Mixer as well. But for right now, Bitcoin is mostly sideways, actually hitting our downside target, even though I wasn't really looking for it to hit this fast that soon. Right around 98.50 in the early morning hours, right as I was waking up. Nicely done. So we have a little bit to talk about in the lower time frames, but still the greater picture, more or less the same. Just actually did a video with K-Dub from Crypto Zombie. Definitely go check it out. Really just fun talk, kind of just talking about the greater picture of this whole game. And of course, if you're familiar with this channel, you probably already know him, but really cool guy. And always enjoy talking with him. Anyways, I think we'll start to get into it now. And with that said, I suppose it's time for me to wish you the best of the best, and also the happiest as always, because, I mean, Jesus Christ, man. It's like one of those things. You can take 1 second just to say that, and maybe it might actually even make a difference. But it's just one of those things. Just wish people well, and who knows what can happen after that. Anyways, with all that said, let's get into the live scene right now. Let's go look some goddamn magic into the money, as I like to say. And I'll see you in there, baby. I'll see you in there. And that's Bitcoin on the daily. Once again, we've come down and swiped that cyan 89 exponential moving average. Once again, it seems to be holding up for now, but man, it feels like Bitcoin gets stuck in the mud every time that we do come down to this level, and it does make you hold your breath. This is the danger zone in the way they look at it, just like the danger zone from Archer, right? And anytime we come down to this region, there you have to kind of hold your breath, just because Bitcoin actually does fully and formally break this. I would be looking for a pretty explosive move to the downside. Actually, this is starting to get a little more scary, no doubt about that. In fact, Bitcoin getting stuck in this region just really makes you really makes you consider that hey, this picture is certainly a little bit more on the weaker side right now. Anyways, putting on our drawing tools right here, bigger picture still the same. We're still looking at one mass symmetrical triangle. Areas of interest are going to be the cyan 89 exponential moving average, or you could use this or you could use the diagonal from this area currently here, which is pretty much synonymous with it. It's about $100 lower, kind of creating a nice zone between about 98.50 to 97.50. So as long as we maintain that area on a daily total closing basis, I think more or less okay. Hashtag K for TA. What have we started over here on Twitch? What's up, Kazokian? Good to see you, man. As always, man. Massive pleasure. God damn, man. You gotta love. I really do love Twitch, fam. It's just it's a true community. But looking at this right here, the greater picture is still the same, right? We're coming down to have some major supports, which always makes you hold your breath. But until we actually fully and formally break it, as a trader, I wouldn't really be looking for this to have the full on melting effect. And if we do break to the downside, yes, there will be a mesh move pointing all the way down around the white 200 simple and blue 377 exponential moving average. Very important for long-term trend identification, which would put us somewhere around the 72 to 7300 level. However, because we are coming off of a macro uptrend, I do believe that it's more or less better to be on the what's it called? Let me just actually get rid of that right there. I think it's more or less better to be on the more conservative side, with kind of just taking it one step at a time. So if we do break to the downside, first and foremost, want to be aware of this 9400 level. That's probably going to get taken out if we do lose the 89 on a daily closing basis. Then I'd be really targeting to move towards the 8850-ish region right here. That's the first area that I would look for on a decent bounce if we do break to the downside. Underneath that, Gap Boys get their vindication at around 8400 would be my next bounce area. And then after that, we can talk about the full on mesh move to the downside. But of course, as we still remain within this region right now, there's still, we don't really have resolution while I am talking about the bearish case right now. And there certainly are a few things that are a little bit, not just a little bit, but actually very concerning. We don't have full on breakdown just yet. And of course, if we actually do break it to the upside, if we do get stuck in the mud here and just reverse back around and break above 12.3 to 12.4 region, then I'd be targeting a move towards 15,000, just the same sort of logic on it. Of course, it goes without saying, we do have an apex on this triangle early October, which implies that we probably break somewhere around here, around the 69% full region in early to middle of September. So I still think that more or less, whether you're bullish or bearish, I actually wouldn't be looking for resolution just yet. I think that we have just a little bit more to go, but we're almost in September, actually, about a week away. So it is starting to become a little bit more of a thing. Anyways, I do want to go down to lower time frames and quickly talk about them, just because we did see this blue box get taken out to the downside yesterday. So remember, While yesterday we actually did confirm above the red 10 simple, that was just quickly undone by something that was much more powerful. And the second that we went back below about 10.3, that was the time to target moves back down towards 9,850 to 9,900. That target was met. Again, this is a great example of not trading, in my opinion, but trading technical analysis. And anywhere below this region right here, that was time to, well, if you want to play a little bit of a short, that would be the time to do it for a nice what is this, like a $300, $400 move. Not bad. Certainly very tradable. And for those of you who are awake and took that, congratulations. Nice little trade there in the early morning weekend hours. But for right now, if you did take that trade, I would have, I would have simply taken profits right around this area right here, the same area that we've come down to a million times. So keep in mind that as long as we're kind of grinding this area out, you can look at this as more formidable support on the 4 hour and kind of basing the next few trades off it. So I would say on a 4 hour total closing basis, we really do not want to see this area break. If this area does break, that would put overall pressure on the greater formation, as I would imagine that would likely have lead on over into the daily closing below that critical territory, which actually really does matter. However, on a 4 hour, if we were to fully and formally lose this region, it would certainly be a major warning sign. It would certainly be interpreted bad, and I'd say that we probably do get that follow through. But I'd feel a little bit more comfortable if I am going to be using a 4 hour to wait for an actual break of this region right here at about 94, 9,500. I mean, shit, man, even just coming back down to 94, 9,500 would look pretty damn bad for the greater picture. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are calling this some sort of a head and shoulders right here, which, if you call this head and shoulders or not, I won't even go through the fucking technical analysis, please, doing all that bullshit, talking about how typically you don't see a head and shoulders as a continuation pattern, and more importantly during an overall macro uptrend, a macro uptrend, which we've been doing for the past 6-7 months. Your counter pattern percentage playouts are going to be extremely low. I mean, this one, a head and shoulders just as a major, as an actual reversal pattern, typically does have, I believe my friend who runs a comp firm who actually did run a regression analysis on this, said it was about a less than 27 or 28% of a chance to play out, in a counter trend market. Obviously, in an overall downtrend, when you get a head and shoulders as a reversal pattern, it has a much higher percentage chance of playing out. I believe at that point it's about 77 or 78, if I recall it properly. It might be in the 80s though, but I believe it's 77 or 78. Anyways, whether you consider this a head and shoulders or not, it doesn't really matter. The way to play it is the same. Where the neckline would be, where the proverbial neckline would be right here at about 98.50. If we close a 4 hour dildo below there, then yes, I mean, while I'm not necessarily intent on making a measure move out of this, because it would probably point down to about 88, 8,900, I would say that extremely likely that we do head down to this region, 9,400. I'll take it one step at a time, or sorry, 9,450, probably a small bounce here, and that's probably gonna, if we see follow through on the higher time frames, like a daily dildo closing along the 89, below the 89, then I'd probably look for the full, I'd probably look for this to come all the way down to our next major region, right around 88.50. So these are pretty, these are pretty testy times. I feel like we've seen this. I feel like we've seen this a lot. A lot before, really, where Bitcoin kind of comes down into a region like this and gets stuck in the mud. And for right now, we are still creating higher lows as it is, but it's going to be in danger today. It certainly is going to be in danger today if we actually do, spend too much time down around here. It's going to look more. It's going to look less and less tasty. But for right now, still kind of holding in there, and if Bitcoin does reverse around, I'd expect a few more wicks into this 98.50ish region, maybe even a little bit lower than that. But as long as we don't close any dailies below there, okay, you can make the argument for it, or at least make the argument for it that it's still not a breakdown. And of course, when we're looking at the past prior 6 to 7 months, just straight to the upside, I do want to maintain an air of indifference and kind of run with the former assumptions. Now, I do want to address this as well. So a lot of people are comparing this price action right here with what we saw during 2018, right, when Bitcoin put in the high at 20,000. I'm not necessarily certain I would agree with that. Keep it put this as a mental picture in the back of your brain right here. Just look at where all of these major moving averages kind of situated around price action. We see pretty much the higher periods still supporting price action, well far away from the price action, and more importantly, we do see 1, 2, 3 higher lows, maybe not working on one right here, perhaps. And then also, again, looking at the weekly, we do see that Bitcoin's just kind of hanging out around the red 10 simple, which also does not look good as well. But if we compare this back on over here to the end of 2017, early 2018, we can see, we can see that we're not really in the same sort of posture that we were on right on over here. In fact, if we go down to a daily, looking at the moving averages, not only do we not have the same sort of setup with the moving averages, but we also do see that Bitcoin had created a series of lower lows here along the way, and of course lower highs as well, but more importantly lower lows. So that's what you need to kind of reverse the trend, of course. And right now in the present times, we actually don't have lower lows just yet. So I do think it's a little bit of a bad comparison to make. It is concerning, don't get me wrong. I'm certainly open to some downside here, but I need to see a break of structure first to confirm a change of behavior on the macro, which would then in turn make me bearish. It also goes without saying that if we do break down, one of the big reasons why I'd want to take this one step at a time is because we still have this trend line to be aware of. This dotted trend line that the red arrows are pointed towards, that is the most important trend line in Bitcoin's history, in my opinion, for identifying the phase that we're in. When Bitcoin's below this trend line, great time to be an investor, and whenever it's above it, well, as you can see right here, parabolic 1, parabolic 2, blow off your top, and then where do we come down? And based upon for literally the next 2 years, from 2015 to 2017, all along this trend line, all of the buys along this trend line were phenomenal, and then it holds up over time, doesn't break, and boom, we get to go parabolic once again. After that, blow off our top, then we come down to this trend line, break it, and what do we get on over here? We get a very similar reaction to what we saw in 2011 to 2013. Bitcoin essentially accumulates below this level, and if you're an investor, it's a great time to be an investor. If you're a trader, it's a great time to be a seller on this trend line. But once we break above, boom, we get the exact same parabolic kind of signature that we saw back on over there. So I would say that as long as this trend line does hold, I do think that you can still make a macro assessment that it's okay, if you want to say that. The dotted trend line also matching up with the weekly 21 exponential moving average, which very important for just, it's very important just for identifying where your major targets are going to be on for like a weekly pivot as far as that goes. And you do see it lining up with this region, which is good for confluence, and more importantly, I guess, hey, hey, what's up, MF? Gay for TA, baby. Start the hashtag. Let's start a goddamn movement over here. We ain't racist. We ain't Hayden Forrest over here. We're gay for TA, baby. That's all we're about. By the way, I almost want to apologize for even giving any credence to what I said last night. Probably shouldn't have said anything, man. But I really do appreciate a lot of support. Holy shit, man. I really, really appreciate it because it helps me maintain perspective, and I want to have like a moment of realness right now because to be quite serious, it actually has been very difficult to maintain perspective, recently with just the way that this kind of channels has grown and whatnot, and kind of interpreting some of the comments and whatnot. So just have that sort of support, and just people say, hey man, you probably didn't have to do that. Most people got it. That was extremely encouraging, and again, that just speaks to the quality of our community. It's like the average person tuning into this content, I think really understands this sort of thing, and also not just in that sense, but as a general person, they have what's it called? They have a good brain, I suppose you could say. It's just like not what you hear about on the news. Anyways, we'll get back into the charts now. But did want to say massive thank you for that, as I look into the camera. It's a very sincere thank you. It really did mean a lot, actually. So let's go check out CMEs right now. And CMEs are a little bit concerning to me. We did see a rejection off the red 10 simple. This is why I do put more weight on CMEs, because we obviously saw that rejection yesterday before we saw Bitcoin, play out this downside drama. So CMEs coming into tomorrow is going to be a very important open. We really do not want to see any sort of an open below this 15th of August low right here. So that's 9,500. So of course, Bitcoin's well and above there right now, but we have another 36 hours to go. So a lot of things can happen, but postulating in preparation for that, I'd be careful with it. Now, there is something to be aware of on top of that, though. When we just talked about 2018. And how spot charts don't necessarily look the same as what we saw during 2018. With all those people kind of making an assessment saying Bitcoin, doing the same sort of blow off top that we saw in 2018 at 20,000, bringing us down, and kind of we're seeing the same thing right now. Well, CMEs actually do have lower lows. We did see a lower low right here from 29th of July to 17th of July, as you can see. Since then, we've actually created a series, a couple of higher lows. But again, if we do take out this low to the downside, that's going to be a pretty clear and obvious signal that we do actually want to trend to the downside, and we're going to really start to destroy the higher time frame picture. But as far as that goes, again, still more waiting, I'd imagine. And of course, we did actually see we did see the weekly diddle close on CMEs, and the CMEs have closed as essentially a doji diddle, right? So a doji diddle is typically a signal of indecision, perhaps a reversal. And the way to trade this is the same no matter which way that you look at it. And this is actually really, really encouraging to see on price action right now, because as a trader, I want to have I want to have clarity on the situation. And I feel like over the last few weeks, over the last month, you've probably seen me not have too much clarity myself. It's just it's more sideways action than anything. Don't really feel all that confident I don't really feel all that confident as a trader, and I don't really feel all that confident as an analyst, although less important over the last month and a half within this region right here. It's just kind of sideways action. But with the advent of what we saw yesterday, with CMEs closing for the week and putting a nice doji diddle confirming that, now the way to trade this is actually very, very simple. Whichever way that we break this guy, which meaning that if we break it to the upside or the downside, I do believe that's going to likely lead on it into our next direction, probably for the next couple months. If we break to the downside, that would imply move down below 97.50, about 97.65 if you want to be super exact. And then yes, this is going to start to really look like a rejection off the red 10 simple. We'll start targeting moves towards the 21 and probably even lower than that, maybe even around the 50 over time. Not only that, but if we do take out the top side of this guy, which is $11,015, then I'd be looking for a move all the way back up to 12,000 beyond, really. So the way to trade this one is the same. I do think that we get resolution on. I actually do think that we break this formation right here coming into next week, whether it's to the upside or the downside. Again, I don't really care as a trader. I'm just happy to have the clarity on the situation if we can get that. I know that TA haters are going to hate something like that, just because it's like, so you're saying it can go up or down. I'm saying as a trader, I don't care if it goes up or down. I'm just looking for the next trade, man. Long term, of course, I'm still macro bullish on Bitcoin, but like I said, if those major areas get taken out, then not so much, man. I mean, the bears will have their vindications. If we do see this break to the downside, it will be nasty and it will be extremely violent. I mean, shit, man. We are getting into a similar territory to what we saw right on over here in January to March, and also what we saw on over here from August to November, both leading up to extremely volatile price action. And we kind of see the same sort of signature on our historical volatility percentile. While it's not that low just right now, it's certainly spent its time cooling off ever since we got up to literally a 100 on this read, which is just, quite literally, we haven't seen that, before. It's a pretty big deal. So it's going to take its time to naturally revert to the mean. And I would suggest that, yes, we probably do have some, a little bit more of consolidation in this region as this kind of cools off. But the last few times that we've seen this get extremely low, we're actually right on over here in March of this current year, and then November of the prior year of 2018. Again, both leading up before this major breakdown here, 50% drawdown, and then right on over here for a 4x to the upside. And I would say that, based off that, not only that, but the time frame is kind of the same. This has taken about what is this, two? We have July and then August. So we have about 2 months spent in this region right here thus far. But going on back into this region, we spent about December to March. Yeah, so it's about 3 months. And then in this region right here, from September to November, about 3 months consolidating. So, looking at the bigger picture, looking at the greater picture, we can expect that this is going to be an extremely violent move that we actually do see transpire. So it's very, very important to get this next move right as a trader, because that's going to be the next big opportunity, the next big time, the next big chance that you have to get one of those beautiful glory positions, like a short from 6,000 before the breakdown to 3,000, or the long at 4,000 before breaking up to 14,000. So for now, I'm actually pretty much positionless. I did try a small position at the Cyan 89 exponential moving average on the daily, but again, the reason why I tried it out here is because I don't have to wait all that long to find out if I'm gonna be wrong or right on that one, and covering it is quite easy. The problem is, though, if we do break below this, got to be fast, man. Got to be really fucking fast, because that's gonna be likely a very, 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 very nasty washout to the downside. Like I said, on the lower time frames, we can pick out some bouncy bounce areas, but the greater picture is gonna really take a hit off that. But for right now, as long as Bitcoin's stuck within this region, I do kind of just identify as another example of Bitcoin getting stuck in the mud. Even though it does look a little bit more hasty over here, to be fair. Let's look at our lower time frame oscillators, and we see 4-hour Stokes angled to the downside. Not good. We see 3-hour Stokes angled to the downside. We see 2-hour Stokes down. We see 1-hour Stokes up. So 3 out of 4. probably aligns with, a little bit of sideways here, but I would be looking for another test down to the 98.50ish region at the very least. So again, man, it's one of those things. Even if you are looking at this region right now, it's not really the time to be rushing into price action. I don't really see too much of a I don't really see too much of an advantage of like rushing into position right now. The position that I did take off this region right here is likely just going to turn into a scalp anyways. About 150 bucks in the money right now, so that's completely fine. But I do think that we probably come back down and test around this region, regardless of whether we break it or not. Whether you're bullish or bearish, I do think that Bitcoin is going to really test some people out. We got to watch if this is going to turn around and reverse. We got to wash out some stops first. I'd imagine that that incorporates move somewhere between about 98 to 98.50 in this region right here. In fact, I will put in a blue box now. Let's do this. Let's do something like this. There we go. And we can just call that. We can call this the blue box of destiny, as Bitcoin needs to hold that one on a 4-hour total closing basis. I did see that one question. I did see one question asking why use a 4-hour for this. It's just because the 4-hour is the lowest time frame that I feel comfortable with that can actually have major implications with the greater picture. And right now we have to really be aware of the greater picture, because Bitcoin is the lower time frames. The edge on a lower time frame trade is nothing compared to what you get on to what you're likely going to get on this on this next major to higher time frame trade. So really, it's the art of this next move is to save your account equity and make sure that you're in a good position to actually take advantage of the of the next move. Again, as a trader, I don't care if this thing breaks to the upside or the downside. I'd much rather it break to the upside, just because it makes life easier. And in a bull market, there's a great saying, you don't have to, you don't confuse brains with a bull market. Fucking true as can be, right? True as can be. Anyways, let's go check out the other top 2 shitcoins. I'm curious how they're doing. I'm gonna imagine that they're actually looking in complete complete nastiness right now. Let's go check out Mr. Beaterall really quick. Mr. Beaterall and the Falling Pizza. Mr. Beater on the Falling Pizza sounds like a Harry Potter movie. Looks to me like he wants to come back down and swipe this like 184 to 184 to 182 region. Very similar to Bitcoin, but we don't really see it testing the same area actually. This chart getting a little bit too convoluted. Let me bring up a Bitstamp chart for Mr. Beaterall, and we should be able to get a more clean look. Yeah, there we go. We're still kind of within this falling wedge. Now, I am a wedge racist. I absolutely fucking hate wedges, but there's 2 competing narratives going on. If you're bullish, you're looking at this as a falling wedge, and you're targeting to move, well, first you're looking for a breakout above about 203, and then you're targeting to move towards 280. But the bears have something very important in the corner, and you know what? I'd even say, if I'm just looking at Mr. Beaterall, if I'm literally just looking at Mr. Beaterall, I'd give the nod to the bears here actually. And the reason why I say that is because we do have a daily dildo death cross in looming, and this is gonna happen. I mean unless the price just literally shoots up back up to 220 in the next 48 hours, we will get that death cross, and we are below all major moving averages right now, and this is clearly a rejection of the white 200 simple thus far. So we are kind of on a ticking time bomb. However, if you are looking for the next big blowout to the downside on something like Mr. Beaterall, I would still be using this horizontal right here on a daily closing basis, right around 180, 185 we could call it, either 185 or a wick below the prior low, which is 173 and a quarter. So that's not really too helpful. You probably have to wait a little bit too long for that. I'd imagine on the lower time frames you could probably make an expedited decision. Yeah, 4-hour right here. If we could close a 4-hour dildo anywhere below this guy, below about 180 even, then yes, I'd probably be comfortable with calling resolution on that one as well. So keep your eyes on that, because Mr. Beaterall is kind of signaling a little bit more nastiness within this market. We do see daily Stokes have been up throughout this time, while price action is essentially stuck to the downside, and that to me is scary, just because we're essentially allowing the oscillators to reset as price action is more or less the same, right? Not only that, but historical volatility percentile is extremely low on Mr. Beaterall, and in fact we'll look at Mrs. Litecoin and it's just as low there too, and that would imply that we are looking at a pretty damn explosive move. Now again, whether you're bullish or bearish, this does have some malice to it, right? So we are seeing a lot of technicals line up with each other, and that would suggest that any sort of a move back up above this region right here is going to be met with a very, 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 very violent response. Yeah, we could take it one step at a time and target first like 217, then 235, then 255, then 280, the full move. But if we do break to the downside, the same logic applies, and I do believe that we still have this measure move off this flag formation still very much in play. Let me just put it in really quick. But I'm talking about this guy right here that we broke down from in middle of July, and this measure move would actually suggest that we go significantly further down, and that would kind of agree with historical volatility percentile. Sorry, it's actually right here. Let's do that, and that would imply a move all the way down to about 1 145 to 150ish region. So again, whether you're bullish or bearish, just understand that this, if understand that risk management is going to be very, 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 very important for this next move, just because if this one does go against you, it's going to go against you a lot. Not just a little bit, but extremely likely a lot. I mean, we're looking at likely an extremely explosive movement here. Every time that we've gotten this low in the historical volatility percentile, we see big moves. I mean, the last time we saw was out of this base right here from 150 all the way, I mean, really to 350. So more than doubling. The time before that was, got this move right here. So I guess a little bit before that. Another like 30% move, I believe. And then the time before that was before the big breakdown from 213 all the way to literally $80. So that is concerning. And the fact is that we did get rejected from the white 200 simple. I'd say that Mr. Buterol is on the more bearish side of the equation. Needs to regain the 200 simple sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it's very difficult to be optimistic on something that's looking like that. Very, very difficult. Let's go check out Mrs. Litecoin. Let's see if she can offer up some sort of point of contingency. By the way, first things that kind of stands out to me is the historical volatility percentile extremely low right now. Again, building up a major cause. We're gonna see a fucking move here, like an actual fucking move, like a real move, relatively soon. And again, same way to trade this one as Mr. Buterol, and same sort of considerations as well. We do have a death cross looming, although not as intense, not as proximal as Mr. Buterol, but it certainly is going to be on its way between the green 50 and the purple 200 right here. And we are below all major moving averages, of course, and well below the 200 simple. In fact, getting that last big breakdown from this region right here. In fact, I'm curious. This is obviously a symmetrical triangle. Did we hit the measure move on this already? No, we did not. This symmetrical triangle does have a measure move a little bit lower. Would suggest a move down to about 67.5. So I would be a little bit more lenient on Mrs. Litecoin. While we do see an obvious horizontal, on our current wick low right around this $71 region. In fact, we could just even raise this gal up, do something like that. And I'm gonna get rid of this blue box. We could still take this one step at a time here. If we break this level, then I'd be looking just for this to get hit and then a bounce probably. But does that bounce get faded or not? Well, I would say that if we do resolve this one to the downside, again, it just makes it very difficult to be more optimistic on it, of course. Looking at the weekly is nasty as fuck. I mean, the weekly is bad. There are very little excuses for the weekly right here. Same thing on Mr. Buterol. Both weeklies for these guys are absolute dog shit. I've been saying this for a while. While I'm not necessarily like convinced on Bitcoin, the altcoins have certainly been bearish the whole way through, and that is concerning. Just because this market typically likes to move together, and if this market likes to move together, then do you put weight on the whole or just one? Well, I've seen it work both ways. That's a problem. That's what makes it difficult. But usually, when you have like an obvious signal from the majority, you're going to see everything pulled in that direction. So that's what I'll say. Krown, you promised us Lambos and Ukraine wives. Well, just wait, my friend. Just wait until the golden shower, my friend. But yeah. Looking at this right here, this is starting to take on a much more nasty tone. If we do break this next level, so that's going to really start to look like a clean breakdown if that were to happen. And it is concerning that Mrs. Litecoin looks in some variation of that, little not as bad as Mr. Buterol, but both pretty bad. And that's pretty much reflected amongst most of our altcoins. I'm curious how Ripple Nipple is doing, and we are at 26.72 cents. Where are we holding in right now? Yeah, still holding this base of price action right around 25.72. But looking at the weekly, I mean, the weekly is going to be very, 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 very important for Mr. Ripple's nipples. As you can see, we are resting on the 200 exponential moving average right now, and below the 200 simple. So this puts it between a rock and a hard place. Hashtag hey, what's up, Fernando? How you doing, man? Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. By the way, dude, actually, I'll get into that later. Probably not the best time to talk about it. But yes, looking at this on the weekly for Mr. Ripple's nipples, we did see a bearish cross between the red 10 simple and the yellow 21. Not a death sentence in and of itself, but if we do see price action close, especially below the purple 200 exponential moving average at about 25.7, we'll call it, then I'd be looking for this to actually give the momentum to fully and formally break this whole formation. and come all the way down to some pretty damn low targets right around the 17.5 cent region and then 13.5 cent region. And technically this whole thing does still have a measure move all the way down to about 8 cents, which technically technically you could make the case that we already saw a resolution on that. I mean, that's not good. We're just kind of seeing fall through right now, but I'd like to see the 200 exponential moving average actually get fully and formally taken out first and foremost, just because for myself, one of my major rules is I don't short into the 200 simple or 200 exponential moving average if we're still maintaining, closes above it. It's the same thing for Bitcoin at 3,100. Remember when Bitcoin was at 3,100 earlier this year, I was bearish on it, but I wouldn't take the short for it until we actually broke that area. And thank God for that rule, because we ended up, reversing around that region. And then it actually gave me the buy signal, which was nice, and that's trading, man. That's why my opinion is flying. It's fleeting, it's floating. It's just not dependable, man. And you'll notice that yourself if you haven't already. It's a technical analysis here. These critical levels of pivot points that offer up trade opportunities, which are neutral to your opinion to begin with. They're neutral in the sense that in their resolution. It's just as a trader, it's up to you to take advantage of that. Mr. Ripple's nipples, 200 exponential moving average, again, 25.7, very, very important. If we break, nastiness, man, nastiness, but let's see, what's it looking like on a daily? Daily, we do see some issues here. We do see daily Stokes getting rejected from getting out of the bearish control zone, or could be getting rejected from getting out of the bearish control zone. It's not confirmed as of just yet. But if we do spend some time here, or even head a little bit lower, especially anywhere below 25.5 cent, that will cross the downside. We're also going to see historical volatility percentile probably explode once again. This is a very if this breaks to the downside, that'll be very, 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 very bearish, coming down to the mid to low teens. Let's go check out a few more. I'm curious how the rest of the altcoin market's doing. I imagine it's probably more or less the same. EOS, same bullshit right here. Weekly came down to our horizontal support, needs to hold 3.25, otherwise big bad problems. Resistance right around 391. If we EOS, actually, you could actually make an argument for EOS, but same sort of read on historical volatility percentile. Anywhere below, a daily total close below 350, or just a wick below 3.25, and I'll be calling much more downside all the way down to at the very least 295, but probably even lower than that, down to like 2.5. Looking more nasty, man. And this, of course, on the weekly looks the exact same as some I think Mr. Beaterall. I mean, I really don't like these formations down here. Neo, literally same chart, same fucking chart. Tron, same chart. Bcash, same chart. Zcash, same chart. Actually, not the same chart. This one's much, much worse. But we are at our prior lows from January and December of the past year. So it's very bizarre. Usually you see just like a courtesy bounce around that region, just for shits and giggles, because people are going to be closing at the very least shorts there. But this is coming down to test this region once again always makes you hold your breath. But I need to see fully and formally 48.9 break on a daily total closing basis. In fact, that actually perfectly lines up with this region. We can make a nice little liquid zone though. Down to this next major area at about 47.25, but a break even into this region is not good. So I'll be careful with that. Anyways, back on a Bitcoin, and let's see what do we got on. We'll get to that a little bit later, man. Raven pumping right now. Could you point out okay, we'll go check it out. Is Raven pumping right now? Did they release some news? Did they rebrand? This is amazing. God damn, man, my phone's listening to me once again. Let's see. I don't know if I'd call this like a. It is a pump, but overall same thing, just straight down for for a long time. I'd be saying right here is actually a good place for a short-term pullback. Longer term though, do we get some more tries to the upside? Well, whether you call it here or about 429, I think that you do pull back off this area, but longer term, more medium term, what could you do? Well, I'd probably take some profits right there, set in a stop, like a mental stop somewhere right around here at around 369, and potentially you do get continuation up to the 21, somewhere right around 515, but it does look a little bit on the weaker side. Let's go check out the Bitcoin dominance chart, and that's going to decide if this one's worth a little bit of a hodl or not. And the Bitcoin dominance chart is coming under a little bit more pressure. We're still resting on the purple 200 exponential moving average on the weekly, and god damn it, man, this one keeps on fucking around with my charts. It's really, really obnoxious, actually. But I do believe that we have broken the structure. No, we have not broken the structure just yet. But it looks to me like it's looking weak on this structure. To be fair, 4 hour Stokes freshly crossed to the downside. I don't know how much. I really don't know how much oscillator is going to work on on something like this, but perhaps worth mentioning. More importantly, we do see that if we do lose this level, regardless of the fact at around 69.5, which that level was 70.5 yesterday. That's so strange. That is so, no, this level is 70.5. Okay, yes, that's correct. Okay, yes. This was 69.5. If you do break this level, then I'd be looking for it to come back down to about 68.5%, which is going to align with altcoins rallying up. So I would say this is a little bit more on the bearish side. Yes, longer term, I'm still bullish on this, but that's long term. We can certainly play out a move all the way down to, I mean, shit, at the most, I shouldn't say at the most, but it could be in more recent times as far as down as like 66.5 to 67%. But for now, looks to me, do we form a base right here or not? Again, looking at momentum oscillators, I'm not so intent on it really. Even though we do have a little bit of a base support, I don't know how much I trust this one. In fact, it's looking a little more nasty. To be fair, historical volatility percentile also very low in all these guys. We're gearing up for a move here, guys. We are gearing up for a move. Perhaps I am going to be wrong on waiting for another like a week and a half to 2 weeks. This could have some malice on it. If not for nothing, Bitcoin, if Bitcoin is going to maintain its overall posture, it needs to rally off this region. So lower time frames would get their vindication with that. So not necessarily a death sentence in and of itself, but god damn, man, when you're down around these major supports, it does get a little bit scary. Let's see. Plebinachi has a great question. Krown, when alts and Bitcoin diverge and you're unsure which one to look at for direction, maybe look at total market cap, total on TV as another indication. We could look at that, yeah. Although I would kind of push back on that and say I don't think that the market cap is all that is like all that good of a metric, just because the problem with the market cap is it's a very crude calculation to begin with. It's quite literally only this. It's literally only this. It's your circulating supply multiplied by your last price. That's it. It's not really representative of what's liquid in that asset. That's kind of a misnomer, or at least for myself, intuitively when I first was learning about markets, that's what I thought it meant. No, it's quite literally just calculation like that, and it can be mass. You can get like a massive market cap without really ever even trading. An asset. I mean, you're gonna notice like page fucking 5 on Coin Shit Cap. There's gonna be all sorts of things that have market caps in the millions or maybe even or 100,000s, and they have nothing to them. They don't even trade per day, but it's just based off that formula that they can benefit from it but looking at the total market cap right here, what do we see? I don't see. I mean, we do have a different posture. We have tested the 20-month exponential moving average on the weekly, to be fair, already on this one, and actually we set in a nice little base of support in this region, creating some higher low wicks right there. But it needs to hold it, man. It needs to hold it on a closing basis. If we do lose this region at about 250 billion, a quarter trillion, if I get that right, I've always had difficulty saying those numbers out loud. But anywhere below there, and then yes, I'd be looking at a move all the way down here, man, all the way down here. So that to look kind of nasty, man. If I was just charting the total market cap, which I don't put as much weight on as I do on spot. We also have this kind of formation going on right now, so base support pretty much where we are right now. So this is why I would say, if you do want to remain bullish on Bitcoin, hold your breath right now, just and pray to bull Jesus, because this area must hold. Even on a core layer like this. But yeah. Anyways, I think we checked out all of that. Let's go check out the the fear and greed index right here, represented in chart format. We did take up on the last tick, and actually we did something very interesting here, or perhaps doing something very interesting. You do see that I put on a Trollinger band on this, or sorry, Bollyport more accurately put a Trollinger band on this, and it does seem to me that we actually do have some interplay with the Trollinger bands. Not always, it's not perfect, but if we actually do confirm above the median band today, that would suggest that we do see a move into like the 50 marker, 56 marker, and test this first standard deviation right here. The thing with that is, and why that's important, is because we do see a pretty we do see a pretty damn strong correlation between Bitcoin spot and the fear and greed index. This is represented by the purple histogram right here. I mean, it's at an 85 read, which is pretty damn good. So we are at extremes, especially coming down to the lowest that we've ever seen on this indicator ever, although we only have about a year of documented history for it, but it came down to a 5, which is literally half, almost half of the lowest point that we ever saw during all of 2018, right? I think we got as low as maybe a 9 read one time, and realistically during 2018, every time that we got into this region, it was actually met with a pretty damn good bounce, and this was a bearish market, of course. This was a straight down market, whereas this has been for the last 6 to 7 months just straight upwards market. So you expect that a very critical read on the crypto fear and greed index in this more current trajectory would be met with a more bullish response, especially, looking at the correlation coefficient right here, bouncing off a region like this, we only really have up to go. But again, price action first. This would be a secondary consideration. It takes a backseat to price action. If we break one of those critical levels that I spoke about earlier, big problems. I would not be looking to buy the blood on that one. I'd be kind of stepping out of the market and actually considering some real actual trending shorts at that point in time. So yeah, I did want to mention that, and let's go over and check out the expected moves chart as well, as we haven't done that just yet. And I would say that the expected moves chart is lining up with this likely being another muddy territory where we kind of put in some wicks in this region, as you do see the first standard deviation kind of accurately getting our lows once again, or around our lows, around that 98.50ish pivot. So I would say that any sort of a region down around there does, we really want to see that hold up. As long as Bitcoin holds that, as long as Bitcoin stays within the first standard deviation on the expected moves chart with regards to historical volatility to the downside, that does imply that we are holding the most important supports. And as long as we don't trade outside that, especially as long as we don't close outside that first standard deviation, that would imply that it's more or less okay. It's a very, very sloppy consolidation. It's a very violent consolidation and a very testy one, just because we're dealing with bigger numbers here. But until we actually do go below, we are still within the bounds of normality from a bell curve, if you want to call it that, on log normal distribution. So if you're looking at that, it would also imply that if we do go below, then that's a change in behavior. But it also says, hey, if we do go below, anywhere below this area is actually less than a 16% chance to happen, right? Because anywhere outside the first standard deviation is 32% chance, but that's for both sides, both to the upside and the downside. If we're only looking at one side, then it's half that at 16, and that would be a less than 16% chance to break this to the downside today. So I would say the odds are in favor of us just kind of, grinding this territory and going sideways. And again, as long as you kind of form a base support right here, all good. Anyways, Krown, you sound thirsty. You should gulp down some water. Oh, baby, let's get gay for TA right now. Let me just take a sip of this water, my friends. Just 1 second. You're damn right, Spliv. You know me too well, my friend. You know me too well. So yeah, that's what I'd be saying about that. Again, it really tells us that this next level is a major pivot on the market. So keep that one in mind. Again, I really don't even want to have a bias in this region. So yeah, I think it's time to start to wrap this video up though. Kind of a little bit on the shorter side, just because we don't really have too much to talk about. We got the move on the lower time frames, not the move that I was actually leaning towards, but again, this is why opinion is irrelevant when it comes to trading. As soon as we broke this, boom, coming down to the next area right here, and there you go. But I didn't take this trade myself, but if I did, I would have been taking profits, at the 9,900 level or 98.50 level. I would not get too greedy with something like this. I'm not necessarily convinced that we have the momentum to break just yet. And you can always re-put on the position anyways, Like I said, as long as we're stuck within this whole formation, I'm taking things one step at a time. I'm not getting greedy with these trending moves as it is right now. Quick to cover and quick to take a loss, if I am on the wrong side of a trade, which realistically, during these times, I should directly speak to this. During these times, one of the big things that I do is I really back off from trading. So someone left a comment on the on YouTube the other day saying, why no more proof of trade? It's just, I really haven't been trading all that much. I did try a trade out somewhere in that region the other day. Didn't work out and ended up actually taking a small loss on it. But realistically, I'm not really intent on using my account's equity to put in positions on this region when things are a little bit sloppy and almost looking nastier right now. In fact, I do want to do one more thing before we go. I want to look at the simple moon averages and see if they're kind of telling us anything that the exponentials are not. So actually, let's actually keep the 21. But other than that, we'll do only simples and see where they're kind of angled towards. And so we got the blue 30, green 50, red 10, and yellow 21. And what do we see here? This is a more bearish posturing on the moving averages, no doubt about that. But the most important one for slope analysis is that blue 30 simple moon average, and we still see it kind of neutral to maybe even slightly up actually, but mostly neutral. So until I see a negative slope on that, that's the most important one when it comes to it, and that would likely give us the impetus to actually break this to the downside. But still would take another couple days, I'd imagine, of closing within this region before we actually get that. So it is a ticking time bomb for bulls to respond right now, I would say. It's just we're gonna have to probably wait this one out, I'd imagine. Bears, of course, want to break this as soon as possible. The sooner that bears break this, the better actually for them. So that's what I'd say about that. Anyways, back into the lower time frames. If we want to wrap this bitch up, we could say that a lower blue box territory right here on a 4-hour total closing basis or a daily total closing basis is kind of like that floodgate. Technically speaking, I would take it one step at a time. I'd be looking for a move down to about 94 to 95 if that were to happen, and then we could talk about a move to 88, then a move to 83, then a move to 73. That's kind of the order of operations, I suppose you could say. Probably going to be accompanied by altcoins breaking their major levels as well. So perhaps it's worthwhile to set what's called alerts for all of them, just because maybe one catches a move before the other. By the same token, until we actually do break this region has been a pretty damn good area to get to get stuck in the mud for Bitcoin. You'll see a lot of wicks in this region, and then and then a lot of times you just see it kind of float upwards and onwards. So I would say as long as we hold this, well, it's kind of what I'm thinking. But hey, it's likely to spend some time grinding this area out first and foremost. So I would say that we probably do test this region a few more times, whether you're bullish or bearish, and have some short-term bounce off them, and then we'll kind of come back to it. I'd imagine starting once we get back, the weekly open for CMEs coming tomorrow at, I believe, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We should start, the market should be ripe for moving once again. Oh, I forgot to mention this. One of the other things that kind of makes me a little bit more optimistic on Bitcoin is the fact that gold had a pretty nice move to close out the week, this prior week. Weekly closing strong, daily closing strong. All higher timeframes are still bullish, and we do see a very, very heavy correlation between heavy correlation between Bitcoin and gold. So I do want to point that out as a little bit more on the bullish side. We see about an 80 read on the correlation coefficient all the way up here, which is damn good. And I do think that gold has some more room to the upside. The breakouts, all higher timeframes look good to me. They look real, and I do think that we get some follow through there. So that'd be a little bit more on the side of on the side of the bulls for Bitcoin. But remember, at the end of the day, that takes a backseat consideration to the more tangible and more important things, which of course first and foremost for Bitcoin right now, price action. If we break this area, boom, bad baby. It's oh man, it's gonna be like 6,000 to 3,000, perhaps all over again. So that's what I'd be saying about that. But for right now, like I said, it hasn't broken just yet. And realistically, as a trader, I actually did buy this area right here. So I'll be quick to cover if we do move back down. In fact, I'll probably just even take profits on this position, sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, this video is live. It's not uploaded, so I can't show that position. But it's not like a crazy position or anything like that. It's just a position from about 98.60, I believe it is. And realistically, like I said, whether you're bullish or bearish, we probably do put a few more wicks into this region before having resolution anyways. So I'm happy to take profits here and then reposition perhaps a little bit later. So with that said, I think I'm going to cut it off there. Again, a little bit of a secret Twitch stream. I'll stay on for Twitch for a little bit longer. And hey, but for all them, for everyone on YouTube, as I search for my words once again, I do want to wish you well. I want to wish you a happy start to your Saturday, a very relaxing Saturday, because Jesus Christ, man, gonna need to be well rested when this baby breaks. So with that said, take care and see you soon.